our training. So we want to come to the last part of this one. So we did something like an assignment. We said first you should create a pivot table showing each sales performance by quarters. Create a pivot table showing product performance by year, and you also create a pivot table that summarizes sales by product and delivery date. So for all the people who made attempts, thank you very much. I really appreciate the fact that you're following. It means that the effort we're making to share this knowledge is yielding fruit. So today I'm just going to look at these three assignments before we can then take today's topic. We will see how to check ranges or how to create range in a pivot table. We'll check the if function. We'll see the slicer options. We'll check the timeline. Then we'll see how to blank spaces after each selection we want to create. For example, if you look here, you'll see there is Arnold, and it is summarizing by 2011, 2012, 2013. We want to put a space in between these to differentiate Arnold from Bed Acer. That way it looks a bit cleaner. The space does not have any effect on the table. It just separates the two values. So we want to see how we can achieve that. Then we want to also see sequence. And I think after after covering this topic, that should be all with this particular data set, and then we'll go to the next one, which will be we'll start from next week. So the first one, create a pivot table showing each sales performance by quarter. So as usual, we pick the data set. You highlight the data set, insert a pivot table. We're putting it on a new sheet for today since we're using it for assignment. So we can bring it here. So it says sales performance by quarter. So you look for the years, sales performance by quarter. So we have the product, the sales, and then we'll bring out the year, the sales date. So here, as usual, we'll always change this format to classic by removing the subtotal first, then change it to a classic view. Once you do this, you right click on the year, come to the field, remove the years and save only quarter, the start date, and the end date should just be the years only, and then you put it by quarter. So here we can remove the subtotal. We don't need it. Guys, are we seeing it? Hello, is anyone with me?
Yeah, we're following.
Okay.
Sales performance by quarter.
Yep.
Yeah. So we just say sales. Okay, I think I removed the product anyway. I did not show. Okay.
Yep. If you want to show sales, of course you're going to be thinking about product first, and then the quarterly sales. That's what we're looking at. And Next one, it says we should create a pivot table showing product performance by year. So from here, I think we can still do the same thing. Instead of grouping it by quarter, we can just change the grouping by year. So just change it back here, take off the quarter, and here you have it by year. So this is the next assignment. So it's not a big deal. It's the same thing we're doing. We just do it differently. So this one. Then the next one says show a pivot table that summarizes sales by product and delivery date. Pivot table that summarizes the sales by product and delivery date. So we can take the data set again and create a new pivot table. We want to put it on the existing one. On this one, we can just hang it here. We can hang it here. So we can click here, and so we want to show a pivot table that summarizes the sales by product and delivery year. So we bring the product first, we bring the delivery date down, and we bring the total cost down here. As usual, we can take off this subtotal. We don't need it. So we can just see the summary by the year. So Bamboo coffee table in 2011 sells this. 2012 it sold this. 2013 it sold this. So this is a summary of sales by product and delivery year. So on the delivery year, these are what we got. So if you still want to change it, you can make it a classic view, and you still have something that is a little bit nicer than what we have currently. So you can just change the views to change the display to classic, and you have it like this. So this is by delivery year. Now, another functions that pivot table does is these figures. You can see a few options about these figures. So something like you want to see uh, the maximum sales on this particular of this particular product on this delivery year. So instead of summarizing these sales by the total number, so you can come to this small arrow down here, and then check the field value, and you check the maximum, and you see. So on 2011, for this year, the maximum value for this item that was sold is 3,379, and so on and so forth. If you want to see which is the minimum value, you can still go back to the field setting, click on the minimum, and click OK. So you see the minimum sales will show up right here. So that's how you get maximum and minimum values. And you can also click right here on the field. You can see all the other functions like the average sales. You can see the average is the total of this, and you can summarize this by changing them to say 2 decimal place. So this looks a little bit better. So the average for this in 2011 is 1,577.87, and that's the average all round. And this also you can reduce it to 4. So total average for the whole year, which is 3 years gap, is this. And you can also change this. If you don't want to see the average, you want to check other functions, such as you want to count how many. For example, you want to count how many of this item was sold in 2011 rather than the total value. So you can come here, click on value, click on count, and you have in 2011 56 was sold, in 2012 107 was sold, in 2013 18 was sold. So you can view this count by this. So total count is 909. So this particular pivot table is giving you a big kind of way to summarize things and make it look better and nicer. So I just want to add a few rows above. So I will show a few other things right here. So I just changed the range. That is the first thing we did, and I want to put a slicer on this particular sheet we've created, on this particular pivot we created. Now, one of the easiest functions I want you guys to learn is there's a search button here. If you're looking for something and you don't know where to find it across these tabs, for example, say you're looking for slicer, you don't know where to find it, but you know what you're looking for. Just type slicer, it will come. You see insert slicer. So learn to use the search. It must not necessarily be, sometimes I don't remember where some things are on Excel, not because I don't know it, but because they are not something I use more often. And like you could see here, I have a tab for myself. Like I told you earlier, I created it because these are the things I use more often. So I put them here so I don't have to go looking for them. But in a situation whereby what I'm looking for is not available on this my tab, what I do is I just come here, click on this place and type the name of that command I'm looking for, and it will come. Even if you don't remember the actual name, just type the first thing you remember about it and it will give you options. So for this one, I want to add a slicer. So I'll click here. Slicer is also like filter. So I want to add a slicer. So I want to see these product summary by year, but I want to see them according, I want to put a slicer by region. So I take a region and I click OK. So what happens is I get this small table here. I get this one here. I can put it up here. Sorry. So I can put it up here. And what it does is, if I want to see what happens on this particular field by a particular region, say Northeast, for example, it summarizes this only for Northeast. If I want to see Northwest, it changes it for Northwest. If I want to see Southeast, if I want to see more than one, I'll hold down the Shift key and click on another. So I'll see for 2. If I want to see for 3, I'll hold down the Shift key and click the 3. If I want to see for all of them, I take off the filter and it comes back to normal. So this is what Slicer does. So instead of putting a filter that is just one filter, you can put as many slicers as possible. It must not be just one slicer. You can put many slicers as possible. So another thing is timeline. So this sales is this particular summary here is showing me product summary, sum of total by product, and I want to see within a particular timeline. So I don't want to have this years here. Instead of putting a filter and changing only 2011, see, I'll have to highlight and click only 2011, so I'll see this. So instead of doing that, I can put a timeline. So come to this pivot analyze and click on insert timeline. And if I'm inserting timeline, I want to use the sales date, so I can click OK. Now the timeline comes right up here. Now see, I have a timeline that shows me all the years 2011, 2012, and 2011 and 2012. So now assuming I just want to see January 20, only for January 2011. This is a better way for me to do it rather than separating this pivot table, changing it, and or going to now put many filters. And I'm just putting a timeline. I'm just going to be seeing only January. If I want to see January and February, I hold down the control key and click the shift, sorry, not control, the shift key. You want to see up to March, you add the three of them. You want to see up to June, that's the first 6 month performance in the first 6 months. So it's showing you that it's quarter one, first quarter 20, not first quarter, first half, first and second quarter. That's first half of the 2011 is showing you the summary right here for only 2011. Now, if I want to see this particular summary only with Northwest, I don't want the other regions, I can click this and it will still give me the same thing. So this multiple filters or this multiple functions, they help beautify your work, especially when you're making, say, a presentation to your organization or to your management regarding something you want to present to them. You want them to have an insight of a performance within a specified location or a specific timeline. You don't want it to be too much of a bogus work. So you created a dashboard, and then with this dashboard, you can just be clicking only separate things and be making your presentation. So I want only January, and I want January for Southeast and Southwest because these two regions are being managed by one manager. So you can see the summary like this. So this is how to create a slicer, and this is how to create a timeline. If there's any question, please feel free to ask me. Now, after creating timelines, we want to see how to put a blank space after each selection. Now, for blank spaces, see here I have bamboo coffee, bamboo end table, but there's no space between them to show where coffee ends. And as much as you think that your eyes are fine, you can see everything. Somebody is finding it difficult to wrap their heads around it. So at the end of the day, he might start, if he wants to start telling the story, he might start telling bamboo end table. He will start from 2013, not knowing that it starts from 2011. So in order to avoid some confusions, we tend to add an extra space between each. So here, I will just right click. I'll go to the pivot tables option. Sorry, not pivot table option. Right click, go to field setting, come to layout and print, and just say insert blank line after each item label, and click on it, click OK. So it makes it it beautifies it a little bit, so that at least this person tend to understand that, okay, this one is just for this person, and there's a space between all of them. So it kind of beautifies your job. So that's how to create uh, that blank space. All right, so lastly, we will before the lastly, we will come to SLEs. So I'll delete this. So in SLEs, we want to use three things. If the delivery is within the actual delivery date, then we can say a meets SLE. If the delivery is delivered after the requested delivery date, then it does not meet SLE. But if it was delivered before the actual delivery date, then we can say that it is a satisfactory. It is satisfactory. So we're going to be using three notations. Meets SLE. Oh, sorry about that. So I'm going to use meets SLE. Oh, doesn't meet SLE. Doesn't meet SLE. Then we can use within SLE. So this few, I want to use this three to show the performance. So for all of you that I asked to fill out this, I didn't ask you to help me put what do you call it? I didn't ask you to use a formula. I wanted you to use random dates, not a formula to generate s- similar outcome, because if you use any formula here it will not give you random input. I wanted some of these actual date of delivery to be the same, some of them to be over, some of them to be lesser. That's what I wanted here, but apparently you guys decided to use the same formula and just generate all the way to how many rows is it? 910. You don't want to start doing it manually and get up to 910, but it's okay. So in order for me to do this, to replicate this and have this particular the comments on this SLA, I will have to use the if command. So I'm going to say if equal to if equal to if. Now, what are we doing is what we're doing is we're saying if actual delivery date is equal to uh, requested delivery date, then it meets SLE. If actual delivery date is more than requested delivery date, then it does not meet SLE. If actual delivery date is less than requested delivery date, then it is within SLE. So these are the three conditions we want to see. So first is if open bracket, we're using G2. I want you to learn to use the actual cell name. So we're using G2. If G2 is equal to F2, comma, then we say it meets it meets SLE. Close the bracket, quotation mark, then comma, then if again, if G2 is greater than the requested delivery date, which is F2, comma, we say it does not meet SLA, so open quotation, uh, does not meet, doesn't meet SLA. Meet SLA, close quotation, comma, then if again, open bracket, G2 is less than the requested delivery date, which is F2, comma, then you open a bracket and say is within SLA. You close the bracket. Now what you do is you count how many of the ifs you typed and how many times you open a bracket. So you see we have the first one, second, 2, and 3. So that means you close the bracket 3 times. You have 1, 2, and 3. So by the time you press enter, it gives you this. Within SLA, literally, because all the things you people did was type the same thing. You used one formula to generate something, so it's going to give you the same thing all through. But if you had used different dates and all, some of them would be within SLA, some of them would not meet SLA, some of them will be meet SLA. But because you use a formula to generate the actual delivery date, then you're going to be having literally almost the same thing, because if your formula is a date plus 1, it means that all of them actually exceed meet SLA. If your formula is adding additional 2 months, it means all of them would not meet SLA. But if you're putting random dates, like somebody who actually captured the actual delivery date, then you get all these comments coming in at different intervals at different places. So this is how to use the if command. And I think people who work in HR, teaching line, in different places where you have to add remarks to your Excel sheet. This is how to add remarks using if command. So is there any question about the if command before we go further? No question. Okay. I told you guys, feel free to ask me anything. So in this particular here, I am thinking we did not number this, and if I want to number it, sometimes we just do 1, 2, 3, and then, or you just do like this, you click, double click. Oh, it's not going. Like this, and you drag it all the way down.
Just one quick question.
Yes, please.
Is there any reason why you have 1900 at the end of your delivery date?
Yes.
Because I think I played around with it, just to have that number randomly generated. But at the end of the day, I just went out the route of using a formula with what you taught during the last class, extracting dates. I
Okay.
just
So
extra dates to
so
the
I
edit.
okay. So I will still have to address this date issue, because most times this is one of the things most people who do data analysis are always avoiding, the use of dates. Every time you are using a date for calculations, there's always a mix up, because the Excel sees these date functions depending on how it perceives it when it's using it for calculations, or when it's using it for a thing or the other. So most times there's a little trick why people avoid it. So they tend to convert this date to text before using it for anything you want to use, especially if you want to either plus or minus. If you are using like equal to e date plus this, and you want to now do a deduction like G2 minus date, it will now begin to shift back to 1900, because that's the start date of the default start date of Excel. So
Okay.
I'll be sharing the workaround hopefully in the next class, where if you want to use date for calculations, what are the key things you need to note.
Yeah. So you generated this with that formula.
Yeah,
GT.
but I
Yes.
decided to leave what you people did now. I don't want. I share. I gave it to you as assignment that you decided to use formula for me, so we use the same formula and work with it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. We'll get there in next class then, because I played around with it, for like a day or two, and it was just the formula that was like giving me
The
the
easiest for you.
yes. And I wanted to add like extra 10 days to the requested date, but I noticed when it gets to for dates that are 29th of the month, it should be say 29th of January. If you had 10 days, it should give you something like something in the month of March, but it wasn't giving me that March month date. So I was just like, okay, we'll bring this up in the class. And
Mm,
so I
don't
just
worry.
added days to the requested day so that I can have the formula worked out all through the whole 910 rows.
Yeah, I get. I know it was a kind of an actual task for people to manually fill out dates, but well, I don't have any data that has requested date and actual date. That's why we had to create these particular ones on our own, so that to help do what we wanted. But in the next, hopefully in the next data set, we don't have to add anything that we would have to do manually.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but back to this one, like after in place of this numbering, where you do numbering and you drag down, there has been series of ways people tend to manage this. First, you can type 1, enter, and then you do equal sign. You say this one plus 1,
Okay.
and oh, what did I press? uh, A2 plus 1. Press enter, it will give you 2. So if you double click, sorry, this is not going on this because it's not part of the table. So
Oh, okay.
sorry, let me just do it here. 1. Okay. If I put 2 here and I double click, it will just
Yeah,
drag the same.
I think if you do series, field series, it can give you the number.
So
That's my
you do field series, it
yeah.
gives you this. So most times that's what people do, and others will just do 1 and do something like equal sign this plus 1 and enter, and you don't have to do field series again. It will just
Okay.
bring out the
Okay, noted. Thanks.
then another thing people do again is they do a sequence. So you do equal sign, you do sequence, and you just click on this and type okay. Sorry. So you click on this, drag it all the way down and enter. Equal sign, sequence. Click on this, drag it down, press enter. Why is it spilling? Oh, equal sign, sequence. Sorry guys, I'll have to check this formula why it keeps spilling. So
Okay.
I'll check the formula and see why it keeps spilling. So uh, I've done slicers, function, if function, range, and blank spaces. So sequence is the last thing I'm supposed to address on this class, but apparently I keep spilling. Meanwhile, something I need to notify you guys is because of Excel versions that varies, some of the functions that work in 2003 don't function again in most of the latest versions. So in case you're using a particular formula and you're having issues, please just note that it might not be the formula might not be wrong, but because of the current version of Excel, which is busy changing other formulas, it is affecting it. So you can also try using this help on Excel, which is also another means to learn. You can learn to use help. So if you start a series, the number of rows, the column, and start, stop. Okay. Okay. So uh, most time the values, the formulas for different versions of Excel can change, but end results are usually the same. So, any question for today before we round up? Aside on what we've treated today, if there's any question, please feel free to ask. Now is the time for it.
For the assignments, say for the last one, I placed the